What's going on, my light ones? It's your boy Mashi MC. And I'm not gonna lie, after chapter 1046, I've had a lot of questions in my head, so I went digging for a lot of things. And I think I've come up with a couple answers. One, what's an awakening? Has Kaido awakened yet? And is there a phase after awakening? So I really wanted to wait for the official to talk more about awakening, but Kaido basically said when you awaken, it's when your mind and your body catch up to your powers. I feel as though that in a nutshell is encompassing a lot of what Luffy's been through, what we've seen from the MC himself. After the reveal of Luffy having the mythical zone human model Nika, a lot of people started to discredit a lot of the things he did. Whereas this chapter sort of nipped a lot of things in the bud. One, the whole Joy Boy reincarnation allegations, and two, Luffy still was not handed some godly-like power. At the end of the day, Luffy's body is rubber. To get to the point where he is right now, a lot of things had to happen, mainly his losses. We were told Haki blooms in battle, and it was through his battles, his losses, his training, and even his own willpower that helped him attain this awakening form he has currently. Not only did it give us more insight on how to awaken a Devil Fruit, when you really sit and think about it, it gave us more insight on Luffy himself. He has a Devil Fruit of one that was named a god. But wouldn't the steps you would have to take in order to awaken that Devil Fruit be a little bit harder than other fruits in general? I want to talk a little bit more about awakenings and Joy Boy. So with Kaido basically stating that your mind and your body will have to catch up to your powers, doesn't it make sense that people who are already at their peak, if they were to eat a Devil Fruit and understand the powers, they would be able to awaken almost right away? And the more we think about it, the people who have awakened so far that we've seen have had their Devil Fruits when they were a child. So that would mean when their mind and body need time to catch up in order to awaken the Devil Fruit. That was why the premise of, oh, you have to have your Devil Fruit for a long period of time in order for you to awaken it was made. That may not be the case. Two prominent figures with a Devil Fruit awakening that we know is Katakuri and Doflamingo, and they both had their Devil Fruit for a long period of time. People we know that ate their Devil Fruit recently were CP9 agents. This is one of the catalysts in order to awaken your Devil Fruit. The next time we see Kaku and Khalifa, they very well may have an awakening. But since we're on the topic of Kaku, I just want to mention, yes, Kaido is a fish model Shiryu Azure Dragon. That does not mean his awakening is his dragon model. Kaku, for instance, is the Ushi no Mi model giraffe, the Ox fruit giraffe model. A lot of people like to equate the Impel Down guards being in their hybrid as the awakened form, but the hybrid form can be attained right after you eat the Devil Fruit, as we saw with Kaku versus Zoro. So for Kaido so far, we've just seen the normal progression of when someone eats his own Devil Fruit. His base, his hybrid form, his dragon form. And yes, I understand the whole lore behind the koi fish climbing the waterfall and becoming a dragon, but there are a lot of things you guys are missing within that story. Also, if he was a fish and had to awaken into a dragon, there are a lot of things you're also missing. One, his Devil Fruit will go against everything we know about Devil Fruit users. They're weak in water. If Kaido had to swim up the waterfall in order to awaken, that would go against things we know about Devil Fruits. Two, Momonosuke. After you ate the Devil Fruit, he was able to transform into a dragon right away. If Vegapunk was able to create an awakened Devil Fruit, it's even less than a failure than we thought. I mentioned that you forgot something from the koi fish myth. And what I'm talking about is that a school of koi fish tried to swim up the waterfall. And to basically mock them, the demons rose it a little bit higher. And all of them basically gave up except for one. And it took 100 years for that koi fish to finally reach the top. And after it reached the top, it was blessed by the gods and basically turned into a dragon. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but after the reveal of Luffy's Devil Fruit, it explains everything so much more. Zone fruits have a will of their own. God Nika was a person, a physical being. His power later on became a Devil Fruit. Playing on that line of thinking, it's possible the koi fish was a physical thing that climbed the waterfall in order to become a dragon. But it wasn't Kaido himself that swam up as a fish and became a dragon. We still have yet to see Kaido's awakening. This is why the mentioning of the awakening and Joy Boy in the same chapter is so good. Your mind and body catch up to your power. Zanisha mentioning Joy Boy. First we get King's flashback when we get to see the white in Kaido's eyes and the big smile almost reminiscent of Roger's, saying, "I'm the only one who could change the world," to King. We get the mention of King talking to Kaido about being Joy Boy. Then we go back to when Kaido knocked Luffy off of Onigashima and said, "You couldn't be Joy Boy either, it seems." Then we take one more step back to when Luffy first learned Conqueror's coding. Kaido says, "I can tell you're enjoying yourself. The more precautious the situation, the bigger the smile." We see the side by side with Luffy and Kaido, we see the brightness of Luffy's eyes, but the dark shade of Kaido. And because of Zunisha, we know that when Luffy awakened his Devil Fruit, he's reminiscent of Joy Boy. The one thing about Nika or Joy Boy that we know is that when he fights, he brings smiles to the people around him. Oden knew of the prophecy of Joy Boy coming back in 20 years. Kaido said that he stayed in Wano because Wano is special. Kaido at one point also thought he's the only one who could change the world, and Kaido possibly at one point thought he's the only one who could be Joy Boy. So much so, the way he fights did not bring smiles to the people around him, so he created the smiles himself. Not only did he name the artificial Devil Fruit Smiles, it's interesting that the drawbacks of a failed Devil Fruit is that everyone can only smile and show no other emotion. And more into the fact that Kaido was trying to be the false Joy Boy. I want to draw back to a couple things. One, the explanation of awakening and the introduction to Kaido. You awaken when your mind and body catch up to your powers. It is very possible that Kaido already has an awakening, I'm going on the premise that he may not yet. And the reason is because his mind is holding him back. Out of him being the only one to change the world, so much so he's trying to start the greatest war the world's ever seen with the world's strongest military might. The introduction to Kaido was that one, unaliving himself was his hobby, and that he loved to drink. Oda constantly showed us Kaido with his eyes shaded out, showing that he lost the light in his eyes and possibly his own ambition, being the one to change the world. Also remember the statement he told Yamato that Oni shouldn't trust humans. Back to the mind aspect. One, the realization that he's not Joy Boy. Two, realizing he can't change the world as he deems fit. The reason why he's waiting in Wano is to see the real Joy Boy, the one who can change the world. I remember this panel. You couldn't be Joy Boy either, it seems. This one when Kaido asks, "Who are you?" Right below we get the mention of Joy Boy. At the end we get the double panel with Luffy and Kaido smiling at each other, but unlike the other one, we get to see the lights in Kaido's eyes this time. Possibly Kaido realizing this is the Joy Boy he was looking for. This can tie directly into Kaido finally using or unlocking his awakening. But there's one more thing about the introduction to Kaido and awakenings. It was the placement of Mad Monkey Rouge when Kaido fell from the Sky Island. Rouge having ties to Buddhism, but also him saying Namo, which can mean I pay homage to the Enlightened One, Immeasurable, or Buddha. The key part is enlightened. The more I read this line, awakening is when your mind and body catch up to your powers, the more I thought of it as being enlightened. Even looking up enlightenment in Buddhism, the phrase Bodhi, which means knowledge or wisdom or awakened intellect of a Buddha, someone who's reached the stage of enlightenment. The verbal root Bud means to awaken, and its literal meaning is closer to awakening, reaching enlightenment to the powers you have attained. Then I go back to when we saw Zones and Impel Down and their awakening, and how it's completely different than what Kaido described and enlightenment. This is a false awakening for Zones. 2. This is the perfect awakening for Zones, because you become the truest essence of yourself with that power, a true animal. Luffy became the truest essence of his Devil Fruit, Sun God Nika. Sakura and Doflamingo becoming the truest essence of Mochi and String, being able to change the things they touch into Mochi and String. Kid and Law being able to operate on anything. Kid being able to magnetize anything. Kaido awakening goes back to being the truest form of the fruit, the fish model of Zer Dragon, and the koi fish myth. When the fish swam up the waterfall, he was recognized and blessed by the gods. Right now he has a recognition of a god. Kaido awakening can be him becoming a god as well, or at least a god of name being a mythical zone like a celestial dragon. Maybe gaining a different type of form, or maybe even changing the color of his scales. Luffy changed to white, Kaido may change to gold. The reason why I mentioned there may be a step after awakening is because of Logias. Looking at Luffy and then looking at Logias, the Logias still have one step up from the mythical zone. Luffy became rubber and can also alter the environment around him with rubber properties. Logias became that substance and can also alter the things around him to that substance, but they can also create it. And because of that, it makes me believe that Logias are the peak evolution of a Devil Fruit. Just a clue that I saw with Logias possibly being the evolution of mythical zones, that half the Logias are tied to some type of animal. Red dog, yellow monkey, blue pheasant, crocodile, caribou. But I'll say the rest of that for my Logia video. But to finish off the video, after seeing the Impel Down guards who can possibly be a perfect awakening or an imperfect awakening, we get to see Sengoku, Hito no Mi modeled Daibutsu, Buddha. Us getting to see both ends of the spectrum. One awakening having the body and not the mind, the Buddha who's at the peak of enlightenment with mind, body, and power. But the best part of not only this page, but the battle between Luffy and Kaido is the symbolism. Luffy in this panel not only looks like a god, but he also is a god. Not just any god, but the god of the sky. You can even say Uranus. Throughout all tales and stories, one thing to always rival gods are dragons, who can also be looked at as rulers of the sky. But if you made it to the end of the video, please leave a comment down below. I'm really interested in what you guys think about Kaido's awakening. Remember, stay enlightened, y'all. Pinky out.